Hello and welcome to Business Reporter's Best of British Business campaign. I'm Ashley Blake. Now, in June 2020, NASA announced they were renaming their headquarters after Mary W. Jackson, the first black female engineer at NASA. Jackson was one of the many black women who played an important role in getting the first men into space. All that happened in the 1960s when segregation was the norm and inclusion was, well, a dream. Hidden no more, the significance of Jackson's work is now posthumously recognised. Although the benefits of an open society and an inclusive workplace have been proven time and time again, a lot of organisations are still struggling to close the gender and ethnicity pay gaps, foster inclusion and nurture talent. Is it because they don't believe in diversity, or is it because they've chosen the wrong strategy? This is what we're going to discuss today with our guests from Diversifying.io. Paula, Cynthia, Andrew, welcome. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in. Let's start off, Andrew. What is diversity and inclusion?
Thank you, Ashley. So diversity is a fact. We can't change that. We're all diverse, whether it's in terms of ethnicity, age, ability, sexual orientation, even economic and social backgrounds. We're all diverse. Inclusion is an attitude and approach to diversity. It's the behaviours we demonstrate, whether it's in business, in the community, socially. That's inclusion. And inclusion is around enabling people to have equal equity, equal chances, and to all prosper.
I see. So what does it look like? What's the ideal scenario?
Yeah, I think for me the ideal scenario would be if you were to walk into a room and everyone's represented around the table, and it's not just the usual demographics that we tend to find, but also a world where men and women are paid equally for the same job, and everyone has a voice and is valued for the work that they do.
How far are we off? Where are we in today's world?
We're still a really long way off. When you look at the boards of the FTSE 100 companies, there are a lot more men running those companies and represented than there are women in those companies currently.
Boards are not reflective of workforces, of organisations, of the customers they serve. There are far too many people on boards who look like me.
And then the knock-on effect that could be having an impact also on the pay gap as a result of that representation not being there. We've got currently 7.5% as a pay gap between men and women based on the data that was shown in 2020, which is an improvement on what we're showing in 2019 of a 9% pay gap, but there's still a really long way to go.
What are organisations doing about it?
Not enough. When you look at those upper echelons in organisations, they are still not representative even of the diverse workforces that they have within them, let alone when you compare that to the diversity in society. The FTSE 100 companies are now all targeted. They have the 1 in 21 policy that they're all working towards. So by the end of this year, they should all have ethnic representation on their boards. When the last data was taken at the end of last year, there were 74 of those companies on the FTSE 100 that now do have representation, and another 7 were added in March of this year. So again, progress is being made and we're getting there, and for those few companies that are going to be left without representation, the pressure is going to be on them by the end of this year.
Have you found that companies are willing to take on your suggestions or sort of level out their workforce, or is it still like pushing water up a hill?
I think most organisations, there's a will and there's a positive approach to it. However, the ability and knowledge of how to do it, the strategy, is not always in place. Some organisations, yes, look at it broadly, but they look in silos. So they might think it's an HR problem or a recruitment problem or a hiring manager's problem, but it's across all those areas. And also there's an issue sometimes about it becoming a tick box exercise. So for example, they may look at the number of black, Asian, ethnic minority people they've recruited, but they won't look then at progression, retention. And a full correct strategy is around 3 things. It's about recruitment, it's around progression, and it's around retention.
Okay, so how do organisations overcome this problem?
It's a big question. It's bigger. People have to understand it's a very complex problem to overcome. There's no one size fits all. There's no one solution. So it's going to need a holistic strategy, and people need to be able to take individual accountability for that, not just put the onus on an organisation taking accountability for that as a whole. It's every individual within that to drive the change forward. Building on what Andrew was saying, it's removing the silos, stopping the tick box exercises, having a holistic strategy, and having the right policies and practices in place that remove those barriers.
And as you pointed out earlier, companies need a lot of help in this area, and this is where Diversifying.io comes in. How can you help?
Yeah, Diversifying.io is a minority-owned female career platform which enables organisations which are committed to diversity and inclusion to reach a diverse pool of candidates and to attract them to roles in their organisation. We're on a mission for organisations to be able to showcase their commitment to diversity and inclusion and reach diverse pool of candidates who they won't normally reach, which they can do through Diversifying.io.
Well, Andrew, it's a simple question to quite a complicated thing that you've got to do. How do you do it?
Yeah, we do 5 things. We have a diversity inclusion job board. We executive search of recruitment services we provide our clients. We have a D&I consulting arm, which does training. We have diversity partnerships as well. We run inclusive events. And we also provide our clients with some real innovative recruitment marketing campaigns as well.
And what about the success? How do you measure that?
Yes, so to follow on from what Andrew said, it's really about taking our clients on a journey and knowing that there's no one size fits all, but it's really about putting in place the right kind of measures so that you can actually track the impact that all your efforts are having around changing the diversity and inclusion within your organisation. But also, I think it's going beyond just it being a tick box exercise. It's to actually make sure that it's having the right impact to the people within those organisations. And that's how you start measuring it, but it's about moving the needle forward constantly.
And presumably you have many case studies, but is there one in particular that stands out?
Yeah, we've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of organisations over the past few years, and I think for me the one that stands out the most is a campaign that we did with eBay. And I think the challenge for eBay when they approached us was they wanted to reach a much more diverse talent pool of applicants. I think the perception that the brand had around being a large tech firm sometimes was a barrier for people, self-disqualifying and not seeing themselves within that organisation. And what they wanted to do was to find ways to showcase what they're doing as an organisation that's really challenging and removing barriers, but being a really inclusive organisation. And we partnered with them to host things like events to showcase some of that work that's going on internally, but also support them on some of their recruitment to make sure that they were reaching a much wider network of candidates, but going beyond just what's on the job description, really talking and retelling the story of what eBay is like and why somebody would want to work for eBay. And a lot of that was really about retelling the purpose and the mission of what the organisation stands for that's beyond just a tech platform.
I see. And what does the future look like? What does the future workforce look like if you walked into an open plan office? In your minds, what do you see? What's your vision?
I think for me, what I'd love to see is when I walk in there, everyone's represented. What we see when we are out on the streets is reflected when you walk through the doors of organisation. We're very lucky to live in a world that is diverse, where everybody's represented out in the streets, but a lot of the times that's not reflected when you walk through the doors. So the talent is there. So how do we make sure that everyone has equal access to opportunities when we are recruiting for roles, but also give everyone the equity, but also create the right kind of environment that people want to succeed, they want to thrive, they want to grow within those organisations. I think for me, that's when we start moving a step forward.
And Paula, for you, it doesn't just stop at the shop floor, does it? Where would you like to see the boardroom when you walk in there? What would you like to see around that table?
Oh, as Cynthia was saying, it needs to represent the workforce and society. That's the short answer.
And your ideal vision as you walk through onto that shop floor or boardroom, Andrew, what does it look like?
Everybody communicating, everybody listening, everybody having different ideas, different perspectives, and being their authentic selves.
It's a great goal to reach for, isn't it? And we must strive on. Excellent, guys. Thanks very much for coming in to see us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Nice to see you.
very much.
Thank you.